Why, hello there, I'm Professor Joel, and welcome to another episode of Planet Scooby Reviews. Today we are covering There's a Demon Shark in the Foggy Dark, and this episode originally aired on November 25th, 1976, and it is the 12th episode of the Scooby-Doo Show. This episode was originally aired on Thanksgiving morning as part of ABC's Thanksgiving Funshine episode. So this was aired on a Friday, Black Friday, I guess. And how cool is that? So Thanksgiving in the States, it differs from Thanksgiving in Canada. Different date. Our Thanksgiving is in October, but we would have watched this as well. I wasn't alive. I came around 2 weeks later. I was born in December of 76. But imagine being 8 or 10 years old and getting a bonus episode of Scooby-Doo. How wild would that be? You love this show. And you got the day off from school because it's Thanksgiving in the States. And you got, you're looking forward to all the desserts, and maybe your cousins are coming over. All your family's coming over. You're going to get, sugar high off of pumpkin pie and apple pie, and you're going to eat turkey. And it's just a magical time. And so you wake up and this just starts your day, a bonus episode of Scooby-Doo. Because way back when, we had Saturday morning cartoons, and that's when you saw cartoons. You didn't really have cartoons any other time. You had them after school, but those were reruns. All your new episodes happened Saturday morning. And for all you kids who are kids right now, man, you live in a great time. You can stream almost anything, but there's just something magical about watching cartoons Saturday morning because everyone was watching them who was your age. So you'd watch them Saturday, and then you go to school on Monday and you talk about it with everyone in your class. It was just awesome. Now we're all just kind of watching everything kind of different, but back then there's just something special about it. Anyway, I'm babbling on, so let's get on with the review. The episode begins with two gentlemen in an airplane flying above the ocean from India to North America. Each of the gentlemen are handcuffed to the same briefcase. Nearby, there's also a demonic-looking shark that has frog-like arms and feet encased in a block of ice. The ice begins to melt and the airplane lands. The men walk off to customs to hand over the briefcase. The inspector comments on how unlucky they were to share a plane with that weird humanoid demonic-looking shark. We discover the shark was dug up in the Indian Ocean where it had been buried for over 1 million years. The shark needs to remain in customs for 24 hours, where it will then head off to Aquaworld. The two men hand over the briefcase and we see that it is full of valuable jewelry made out of pearls, and it is valued for $2 million. These jewels are to be picked up by the museum the next day. The customs inspector locks up the jewels with the shark, and he, along with the two men, head their separate ways. Before they depart though, the custom inspector claims there's no need to worry as the building is just as secure as Fort Knox.
Sure don't envy you fellas, flying all the way from India in the same plane with that thing. I'd rather have Frankenstein in here than that weird humanoid shark demon. They dredged it up out of the Indian Ocean, where it's been buried for over 1 million years. Law says I gotta keep that monster in here under quarantine for 24 hours. Then it goes on display at Aquaworld. One trunk containing rare pearls on loan to County Museum from the Maharaja of Ringpur. Value $2 million. We'll have to keep the pearls here overnight until the museum picks them up in the morning. You can rest easy. Those jewels will be as safe in here as if they were locked up in Fort Knox.
Unfortunately, he's unaware the demon shark is inside and thawing out, and we soon see a shadowy figure make the pearls vanish. Out on the ocean, the gang are enjoying a nice sunny afternoon of water skiing and snacks. Velma's uncle has lent the gang a boat, and on the radio they hear about the jewelry theft.
It sure was nice of your uncle to lend us his boat, Velma. And police are still without clues to the mysterious disappearance of $2 million worth of Indian pearls stolen from the airport customs building.
The paper said that the customs building was built like a vault and the door was locked.
Yeah, the only one inside was that million-year-old shark monster.
And he couldn't have done it.
The gang are chased by a real shark, and Freddy crashes the boat onto a nearby beach.
Jeepers, it looks like we're stuck on this beach.
And like we'll never get up that cliff.
Climbing a cliff, they are watched above by the demon shark. The cliff top is incredibly foggy, and the gang are on the hunt for a telephone. Instead, they soon find themselves in Aqualand, and they discover the demon shark, who takes chase.
Look, we're inside Aqualand.
Hey, we climbed right up into the aquarium.
With the help of some performing dolphins, the gang eventually escape. Searching for clues, they discover Mr. Dreyfus, the manager of Aqualand, in his office. Mr. Dreyfus explains that he thinks that their biologist, Professor Beaker, brought the demon shark back to life. Mr. Wells, who is Mr. Dreyfus's assistant, had reported to Mr. Dreyfus that the professor had a book of Hindu spells that can revive the dead.
M. Dreyfus, manager.
Hey, there's a light on. He must be working late.
Maybe he can answer a few questions about that demon shark.
Then you've already seen the demon shark. I have reason to believe that Professor Beaker, our biologist, brought it back to life. Mr. Wells, my assistant, told me Beaker has a book of spells, ancient Hindu spells that can revive the dead. I figure Professor Beaker must have used it to cast a spell on the creature.
The gang then head off to find Professor Beaker to look for this spell book. Professor Beaker shows the gang the demon shark is still encased in ice, so whatever is running around is a phony. Velma confronts the professor about the book of spells, and he's a little bit shady with his answer, stuttering that Mr. Wells had shown it to him, but he hadn't seen the book in months. The gang then split up and head off to look for Mr. Wells and the book of spells.
Impossible. I tell you, Mr. Dreyfus is seeing things.
We've seen the monster too.
Oh, but that's impossible. Ever since it arrived here last week from India, the creature has been right in this room, right here. It hasn't moved a muscle in over a million years.
What about the book of spells Mr. Dreyfus said you had?
Book of spells? There was a book of spells. Mr. Wells, the assistant manager, showed it to me once. But I haven't seen it in months.
In a matter of seconds, Scooby and Shaggy are chased by the demon shark.
Yeah, I guess Daphne's right. It's silly to worry when we saw it on ice. Zoinks!
Where they hide in a nearby pie-in-the-sky restaurant. In this restaurant, we see lots of pies, and the two find a book of spells, and while Shaggy thinks it's a real book of spells, it's really just a giant cookbook.
Secret spells of gastronomy. We found it, Scoob! We found the spell book! Like, boy, are we gonna give that demon shark a big surprise! It's the demon shark! He must be after the spell book!
Meanwhile, Freddy and the girls quickly bump into Mr. Wells in the fog. In Mr. Wells' workshop, the gang asks the man about the demon shark, and he explains that it was Professor Beaker who had the book of spells. Mr. Wells also claims he's only seen the frozen demon shark and not the living thing. Mr. Wells also shows off a cabinet he's been working on that has several secret drawers.
Oh my gosh! What's that? Oh, you must be Mr. Wells. I hope.
That's right. What are you doing here?
Looking for you. We want to ask you about the demon shark.
You'd better come with me to my office.
And Professor Beaker said you had the book of Hindu spells.
I remember Beaker reading it, but I haven't seen it since.
And you say you've never actually seen the demon shark?
Never. That is, except the frozen specimen in Beaker's laboratory.
A secret drawer.
Yes. Cabinet work is my hobby. When this cabinet is finished, it will have several secret drawers and a false bottom.
Heading off, Freddy and the girls find an empty stack of oyster crates bought from Sam's Fish Market. Velma is suspicious that an aquarium would buy fresh oysters from a market.
That's strange. There's nothing but empty oyster crates.
From Sam's Fish Market. Why would an aquarium buy oysters from a fish market?
Freddy and the girls then break into Mr. Dreyfus's office as he leaves for the night. Inside, they search for the spellbook, but instead find a brochure of the exhibit of the Maharaja of Ringtur's rare pearls at the county museum. Velma also finds a shipping invoice to ship oysters from here to Florida.
Shh! Come on. Now's our chance to search for the spellbook in Mr. Dreyfus's office. This brochure was lying on the desk.
What is it?
An ad for the forthcoming exhibit of rare Indian pearls at the county museum.
The same Indian pearls that were stolen last week at the airport.
It's a shipping order to ship oysters from here to the Aqualand in Florida. Come on, let's find Shaggy and Scooby.
The gang then reunite and Velma politely mocks Shaggy for finding a recipe book of spells.
Gastronomy means good eating. What you found is a cookbook. Secret spells of gastronomy. You really hit the jackpot, Shaggy. Listen to this spell. Boil spaghetti for 10 minutes, add anchovies, clam sauce, tomatoes and onions, and simmer over low heat.
The demon shark then shows up but quickly leaves after swiping the bag of oysters that Shaggy and Scooby discovered in their previous chase from the demon shark.
Zoinks! It's the demon shark!
I think he wants the oysters.
And I think you better give them to him, Shaggy.
What's a ghost gonna do with all those oysters?
Freddy plans a trap, and while it doesn't 100% go to plan, they do end up trapping the demon shark. They also discover that hidden inside the oysters are the missing pearls.
I know oysters can have pearls, but a whole pearl necklace?
And pearl earrings.
Freddy unmasks the shark, and it turns out to be Mr. Wells.
It's him, all right. Mr. Wells.
Freddy explains to Professor Beaker that Mr. Wells, the assistant, wanted to scare Mr. Dreyfus off the job. Wells had stolen the jewels by building the cabinet that the demon shark was transported on. With the cabinet, he had a secret drawer built in the bottom so he could hide in it before and after he stole the jewels. That Mr. Wells must have a bladder of a champion because he probably would have been hidden in there for days, at least hours. I mean, he had the flight from India and then being transported to customs, and then he had to hide in there after and then wait to be transported to Aqualand where he could probably get out of that cabinet. Anyway, Wells hid the jewels in some frozen oysters and then hid them with the live oysters to ship them to Aqualand in Florida where he could pick up the oysters. Everything would have gone under the noses of the police and the FBI and whoever else was investigating. Unfortunately, Mr. Dreyfus wouldn't authorize the shipment, so Wells had to figure out a way to scare him off, so he used the demon shark costume to scare Mr. Dreyfus. And then he figured he'd get promoted to manager, where he could then have everything go according to plan.
The real demon shark is still frozen in your lab. But Wells used this costume to pose as the demon shark to make it seem that it had been brought back to life.
Because he wanted to scare Dreyfus, the manager, off the job.
Why Dreyfus?
While he was in India dredging up the demon, Wells read about the jewel shipment and arranged for the demon to be shipped on the same plane.
Then Wells used his expert skill at cabinet making to construct a secret hiding place for himself in the base of the real demon's cabinet.
After the guards locked the customs building, he sneaked out, snatched the pearls, and ducked back in.
But why did he want to scare off Mr. Dreyfus?
Wells had hidden the pearls inside some frozen oysters from Sam's fish market. And then he put them in the tank with the live oysters, intending to ship them out of the state to another Aqualand in Florida, where he could pick them up later.
But like Mr. Dreyfus wouldn't permit the shipment, so he tried to scare him away with the demon shark costume.
Then he could take over the manager's job and authorize the oyster shipments himself.
With another mystery solved, the gang head off on their next adventure. I give this episode a 7.5 out of 10. There's a lot to enjoy about this episode. The demonic shark is kind of cool, and we get the legendary scene of Scooby water skiing at the start and being pursued by a shark. That kind of got retooled for the intro. It's a classic scene. I actually did like a meme for it on my personal Instagram account a couple years ago, and a lot of people seem to enjoyed it. I'll show you the picture here. But yeah, I just got a classic Lego shark and I teamed it up with Scooby and Shaggy. I thought it was funny. Don't go looking for my Instagram. I took it down. And I don't have a Scooby-Doo Instagram. I might one day. I'd rather put my effort into making these videos and replying to comments than just to have an Instagram going. Instagram's a lot of work if you want to do it right, and totally respect people who have an Instagram account. I just can't. It would stress me out just trying to be creative and have something every day or once a week, and that's why I don't have an Instagram account. Also, the atmosphere is very spooky in this one as the gang wander around an empty Aqualand. However, while all the players and pieces are in place, this episode just didn't hit a home run for me. And I thought it would because I love sharks. And the shark design I like in this one. And I think a lot of why this doesn't hit a home run for me is that the setting and plot are very familiar from Scooby's Night with the Frozen Fright. This is basically a caveman substituted with a frozen shark. We get the caveman thawing out in the original, and in this one we get a shark thawed out. And there are variances, there are differences and such, but it's just hard to separate the two in my head. And the constant fog also drove me batty. I know they added it to add mood and spookiness. I just felt it muted the excitement of the episode. I like my Scooby-Doo very colorful, and this just kind of made everything kind of seem hazy and bland. So that was a bit of a downer. And the pacing seemed a little off as well. We mostly just get the Freddy and the girls interviewing people, and then we get snippets of Scooby and Shaggy running away from the demon shark, and it's rinse, repeat, rinse, repeat, rinse, repeat. It just keeps happening. I would have just appreciated a little more variety in the episode. Finally, the demon shark, who looks scary, isn't that intimidating. For the most part, he just spends a lot of time spying on the gang, and I never felt they were under any real threat like they were with the gator ghoul or the shark god from The Secret of Shark Island. Those two creatures, very scary. This one, for a demonic shark, not that scary. Still, this episode is a lot of fun, and I like the plot. I liked the reveal. Very cool. I like that this guy was hiding under a platform for hours upon hours so he could sneak out and steal the pearls and such. Yeah, fun episode. Anyway, I want to thank you for any views, likes, shares, subscribes. Once again, I love it. I love seeing my reviews or my subscribes go out every week. And I like to hear from more people. And I like to hear from people who always kind of comment. I like checking in with everyone every week. It's very cool, very fun for me. Yeah, thank you once again. And anyway, until next week when I will be covering the Ghosts of the Bad Humor Man, which is one of my most requested reviews. Like, people have been bugging me for a long time to review this one, and I'm finally getting to it, and I'm very excited to do it. I'm glad you harassed me to do it because I know I'm going to love this episode, and I'm very looking forward to putting this episode review out. So until next week, stay spooky.
Yeah.